Today is the last day of the voter registration weekend for the municipal by-elections, which will be held next month. The voter registration is taking place across most provinces, including the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Free State and KwaZulu-Natal. Registration stations will open from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. The IEC has reminded voters to bring their IDs along and to follow COVID-19 safety protocols. Well, joining us now for an update on the citizen participation in the process is IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Masego Sheburi. A very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Keorapetse.
Now, voting stations opened yesterday, for people to be able to come through and register or perhaps even update their information in about 40 municipal wards that we're expecting by-elections to be taking place in next month. How would you say the process has been unfolding?
Yesterday at 8 in the morning, we opened a network of 261 voting stations to enable residents in the 40 wards in which there are ward vacancies to check their details, to update their details, and to register as first-time voters. We are happy with the process and the flow of voters into those voting stations. We remind voters who are already registered that they also have an additional modality to check or update their details by going to our website, elections.org.za. And if you are registered and you may have moved in the intervening period, you don't even have to go to a voting station. You can go onto our website and update your details at your leisure. We are happy with the progress for yesterday. We anticipate that there should be an increase in traffic today in the afternoon, since it is the last opportunity for voters in those 40 wards to update their details and to register as voters.
Now, did you experience any hiccups yesterday or even this morning, whether technical or otherwise?
We have no significant technical incidents reported. We had isolated cases yesterday where, owing to issues related to service delivery, some of our processes were hampered. But even in those localities, working with local leadership structures, we were able to open our stations by 9 o'clock, and those stations remained open for the duration of the day.
When you say some of the processes were hampered, in what way were they being hampered in those particular localities?
There were protests in one that affected one voting district yesterday morning when we were about to open at 8, and with the intervention of the local leadership, that station was eventually open about 45 minutes after 8 o'clock, and it remained so functional, and we did not experience any issues again today.
In a situation like that, would you then have to allow it to remain open 45 minutes after the 5 p.m. cutoff time, just to make up for that time?
What we do is that if there are people in the queue at the point of closing, we do not close and shut those people out. We assist everyone who's at the queue by 5 o'clock until we have assisted the last voter. So we won't close at the station if there are people in queues. This is true also for those voting stations where we have not experienced any challenges.
Now, for those registering today, just remind our viewers what documents they'd need to bring along with them to those voting stations.
The only document that a voter needs to bring along to register is their identity document. It can be a green barcoded ID, a smart card. If a person has mislaid those, they could get a temporary identification certificate issued by the Department of Home Affairs. That is also a competent form of identification. At arrival at the voting station, we ask voters to observe the health protocols related to COVID, i.e. people must wear face coverings or masks. They must observe social distancing. We will provide sanitizers at the entrance to the voting station and at the exit to the voting station. A person completes their details, including an address. I just need to stress that proof of an address is not a requirement. A person must just give us an address. If they do not have an address, they must just give us a description of a place of ordinary residence. And if that description locates within the boundaries of the ward in which they want to register, we will include that person on on the voters roll. So once a person has completed details, we will upload them into our system, validate them against the population register to check whether people are citizens, whether people are still alive on the vote or on the national population register, and whether the person who applies for registration has attained the age of majority, i.e. 18, so that we can place them on the correct segment of the voters roll.
And in terms of compliance to the COVID-19 restrictions that you mentioned earlier, have you found that at the different voting stations people have been compliant? Was it difficult to actually make them maintain social distancing?
No, we've not had those problems, because I think we are not asking people to do that which they do not do already in the normal course of daily activity. And I must just applaud the South African public for their cooperation in that regard.
And just lastly, what actually takes place after today's process is concluded? You mentioned briefly that you're going to be having to verify certain people who might have passed on and remove them from the voters' roll.
Those people who have applied, they will, during the course of the weekend, receive SMSs advising them of the outcome of their application. Either a person will be registered and confirmed as a voter on the voters' roll, or a person will be rejected for a number of reasons, chief among those being that the person is regarded by Home Affairs as not being a citizen. In that event, the person can correct that situation with the Department of Home Affairs. Between now and the day of the by-election, there are a number of activities. We will have candidate nomination for everyone who wants to stand as a candidate to submit their candidature documents, and if they comply, that person will be placed on the voters' roll as a candidate to be elected to represent residents in the ward in which they are standing.
Well, we'll leave it there for this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Masego Sheburi, who is the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer at the IEC. Now, still